Welcome to our presentation, Building Data-Centric Organizations with Data Platforms. In the morning, we heard a lot of things more on the front end and middle end about operating models, LLM, apps, use cases, analytics. But now we shift more to the back-end side, to the infrastructure, to the platforms. Maybe I come here. Next. Okay. What are we talking about? We're giving you a short introduction about who are we, who's data-minded, what are sustainable data organization and how to get there, what is data product thinking, and what are data products per se, and what does it mean to have self-service data platforms? What is exactly self-service at data platforms? And yeah, in the end, a short summarization about key takeaways. So the guy next to me is Jonny. Jonny is senior data engineer as me, as data-minded, and he's also the head of knowledge. He's our, let's say, professor at data-minded, and you will see in some minutes why. I'm responsible for the extension on the German market here in Germany. We are a Belgium-based company, 20 kilometers east from Brussels, 10 years old. Very successful on the Belgium and Benelux market. And last year we decided to move over to Germany to expand our business there. And against all odds, a lot of companies in Germany are leaving Germany. We are going in there. That is what we did in the last 10 years. We served many clients, a lot of use cases, 1,000 hours of teaching, provided more than 30 data platforms, onboarded a lot of people in the energy sector, banking, biotech, semiconductor, public sector. Maybe there's one or another company that is familiar to you. So we are very widespread in industries in terms of our service. What is our missions? We are industrializing data products. We are building and modernizing data platforms, and that is our key objectives and our key missions. Yeah, we also do improving operating models and do some upskilling and reskilling for our clients. But that is also the topic of this talk: data products and data platforms. What we see usually are great numbers and forms of KPIs or metrics, very shining, the business is running cool, running smoothly, everyone is happy. But a lot of people don't see the big mess in the back end, and somehow all this have to be connected, that we have like data insights in the end that we can derive decision for our business. And so we must examine the whole system, not only the front end and the back end, so we must examine the whole system. How can we visualize that? You can imagine an iceberg floating on the ocean, and it could look like that. On the top you have the insight for everyone visible, but beneath that you have the whole infrastructure, the data platform, the pipelines connecting all the dots. And also somewhere before the iceberg was created, anyone would have made a cool architecture of that. So, but going more into founded details in form of a pyramid, at data-minded it would look like that. You have in the bottom, you start with a data architecture. You're building a platform with all the requirements of infrastructure, operations, and on top of that, you're building data products. Means pipelines, insights, apps, and at the same time, you want to increase value. You also want to decrease the amount of work. The main work is happening here. And by automating all this stuff together, we want to keep it low, because we want to reduce cost, increase revenue in the end. In the end, we want to create value from data products. And what especially it means will explain Jonny to you.
Yeah, you can put it down. All right, good afternoon, everyone. So let's explore where we can get value from data. So ultimately, why do we use data? We use that to create some sort of value in your organizations. So if we look back to the talk of this morning, the IKEA talk, basically you heard the same message. We want to create value for customers. That's what was said on stage. And we saw several things. Customers should be able to shop faster. They have the toilet questions, like where is the toilet? They ask questions to data, and they try to get creative and remodel their home with the app. And for all of these things, it all started with their app in the end. And the app, of course, that relies on data. So when we think about data, we think about BI dashboards, we think about AI models, we think about APIs, apps, mobile apps. But ultimately, this is your value chain. You go via these technological products, you go to insights, which allows you to create decisions. Like if you need to go to the toilet, you look it up in the app and you make the decision to go, and you take the action of actually doing something. And that creates value for the customer, but also for your internal organization. And the way we generate that value, it starts at the beginning, but that's not the real beginning. The real beginning is, of course, data. And we need to keep getting ready for the future as well. The AI block that I draw there, it's new. It's essentially the new kind of AI that we all want to use, the LLMs that have been around since only a few years. So we need your organizations to get ready to get started with data. But that data value is always created in a domain. You have different domains in your organization. You have a sales domain, a finance domain, marketing domain. It always is in a specific department or area. And there's one of those that is very atypical, and that's the bottom part, which is IT. We treat that domain a bit separate. And what is the typical reflex that we have when it comes to technology and data and AI? We centralize it. We throw it all in IT. And then, of course, we create a bottleneck. And that bottleneck manifests in low speed because they have limited capacity. There's also low quality because they don't know all the domains. They don't know what's going on and what the concepts are. And so you get into scaling issues. These people are hard to find. They have low capacity, and the business basically wants more, the other departments. So the symptoms that you will probably recognize it takes months to get a dashboard. And when you get the dashboard, it's not actually what you asked, and you have to start anew. So this doesn't work. Centralization is a bottleneck. The second thing is, okay, let's try to decentralize. Let's push it all towards the domains. You give them the tools and everybody starts to build. And in the beginning, that looks very good because you see some results. And then you start connecting and you ask yourself, maybe we can attach the customer domain to the sales domain and another domain. And you're like, no, you cannot do that. I have a different version of my customer ID than you have, so we cannot glue that together. And again, it takes months to get a result. So you end up in the same thing. And the basic proof is these customer 360 programs that a lot of companies have. For 15 years, we have the technology, yet today we cannot even simplify a unified view of a customer. So there is something wrong other than technology. So what you typically see with a decentralization approach is first you centralize, then you start to decentralize, things go well, and when you start to scale it out, you hit a wall. The quality wall. So you cannot scale further and things slow down and you're way worse off than you were before. So time and quality are of the essence here. How do we solve that issue? So how do we unify all of this? What do we put in the middle so that we get time right and that we get quality right? And the answer of that is that very complex spaghetti image, which I will detail to you in the rest of the presentation. There's basically three things that we believe in. I see my numbering is all one, so let's put it all on number one. We have data products that we put in the domains. They will have ownership and responsibility. We will build a data platform that allows them to take that ownership. That will be crucial. And we will make sure that your typical specific organization properties need to be integrated in both the domains and in the IT organization, because that's unique to your organization and you cannot buy that. If you buy a data platform, you won't buy your processes. You will still have to integrate something. So let's start with the domain-owned data products. Domain-owned data products, essentially, when we create value in a domain, we have expectations these days. And we can make those quite hard, the expectations. We want data to always be valuable when somebody does something with that. We want it to be discoverable, understandable, interoperable. If I have a customer ID and you have one, yeah, I should be able to join both data sets together easily so that we can get a unified view. And that is not the case. So this will be part of the ownership we push to everybody that works with data, everybody in all domains. This is not a centralized IT approach. How we do that is specific to the organization, so you will need to give that a specific meaning. Then we will work with data products. What is a data product? This is magical, mythical thing that people talk about. And essentially it is data, it is code and tools, and it is the people and the roles that we all tie together. People will use tools to develop something with data that they can share with each other. They will use other data, they consume it, and they produce data, they produce dashboards with that. And everything that they do should abide by those 10 rules. And there's one important thing that's highlighted in purple, that's the owner. Everything needs an owner, so that you know who has the end responsibility of what is being built. This will allow you in your data organization to move away from the operational domain, where you have a lot of data lying around, to the analytical domain. With source-aligned data products on the left, you combine data and you prepare that for the actual applications that were the start of our value chain. If you want to train an AI model, it should be easy to get to the data fast and use the data as fast as possible, and that you can start delivering quality data products. So you will be able to connect all of this, and a big thing in this whole landscape will be everything has a purpose. You won't be thinking about somebody asking data access. No, you know my data is being used by a data product, and the purpose is I need to calculate strategic KPIs. That is the reason why my data is being used. So it will allow you to have deep understanding of your data landscape. Ultimately, this will also allow you to create multiple domains that have now these data products. They don't only have the software and the operational tools anymore. They will own the data they produce that has internal value and external value. You will be able to connect these things. But all of this story, it's still quite fluffy, so we'll need to see how do we put this in practice. That will be the difficult thing, right? So this is a nice thing. But we actually did that at one of our clients in biotech in Germany. We basically allow them to build data products. I won't go into all the details of this slide. We're happy to talk to you afterwards on the use case. But essentially, we enabled them to do better decision making and also to make strategic decisions. If you have the right data and you can rely on that, you can make strategic decisions. Okay, so how do we actually make it easy to build data products? That is the actual question. We can say, you need to build data products, but how do we do that? And let me ask a very, very simple question to the audience. Who of you can drive a car? Yeah, I expected this amount of percentage, so my guess was right. Who of you can build a car? I know I'm in Germany, so I still expect a bit more hands than in Belgium. Oh. A model, yeah, that's good enough. A model car, you can build a model car. So we have something at least. But this is a very large gap, right, between driving a car and building a car. So if you would have to go from point A to point B, I had to go from Belgium to Germany yesterday. Which option do I choose? Do I build my own car or do I just use a car that's already there? I think, yeah, the answer is, of course, very clear. I just take a car and drive because I can drive. That's a skill I have. If I would build my own car, I would not have made it here. It would take me 10 years to get to this conference. And then we have all kinds of new AI and we'd have different problems. But this is essentially what we also see in data. We give people a bunch of tools. We give them LLMs of different vendors. We give them a cloud with all kinds of services. And then this happens. 80% failure in what we do with data. AI products, data products, they typically fail, low ROI. So why is that? We typically give people a bunch of cool technology tools because they're fancy, they're new, they're open source or whatever. And we expect the whole business to work with that. But that's just a bag of tools. It's not a data platform. So what we should do is to get from point A to point B, you don't need to give people an engine or a frame. No, you give them a car because they can drive, or you learn them how to drive. You don't learn them how to build a car. That's where you have specialized people for. And this is key in also building data platforms. We build self-service data products. Just like a car is self-service, I get in and I drive it from point A to point B, or it drives itself these days even. I don't want to assemble my things all on my own and have to learn all the skills. So if we look to the domain side today, we have a domain and they throw over the wall a question. They want a dashboard, an AI model, or an answer to a business question. And then somebody gets started. They ingest data, they store it, they process it, and they produce some kind of report. Every step of the way, they will need to go back to the domain, like, what do you mean with this table? What is this field? What is this description? So you have a continuous ping pong that slows you down. Then you deliver the dashboard to the operational world, and they're like, this is not what I asked for. Up, and you go through the loop 3 times. So what will we do? The knowledge which resides on the left and the skills that reside on the right and the lack of ownership, that's what we will solve. So we will move, we will shift left, we will shift the ownership and make sure the domain people have enough skills to build their own dashboards or ML models. But what does it require to actually build a good data product or an AI data product? Let's say we want to build a chatbot, for example. How do we get started? Well, you need data at first. So I need discovery. I need to discover where is my data. I want to do an employee chatbot. I need employee data. So I ask Rudy from the domain of the employees, like, where do I find this data? He has been working here for 40 years, so he says, I know where it is. It's in that Oracle database. You need to use that API, and you can find that dashboard for some employee data. Okay, thank you, Rudy. But now I need to get access to the data. And again, coincidentally, Rudy is also the system administrator, so he can generate some keys and passwords for me, and I can access the data. I get the data, and of course, it's dirty data. I still need to clean it. So I need to make sure I have recent data. It needs to be complete. It needs to be accurate. And again, Rudy has some mainframe script from the 70s lying around that he gives to me. He says, just run the script and you will get magically nice data. I run it and I have my usable data. So finally, I can build my dashboard and I have completed all the steps. What's the big constant in my story? Rudy. There's a lot of Rudys. So essentially, I was completely dependent on this one person in my organization, and I'm using Rudy as a service here for discoverability, accessibility, processing of my data, and the report I can do myself. Luckily, I can use Power BI. Okay, so how do we get rid of Rudy? That is the essential question, because Rudy cannot scale. People don't scale. If we are on the left side, then we actually try to scale the IT organization. We keep putting people in there, and every time there's a new request, we need to keep adding people. We create bottlenecks. We need to shift to an organization that is very lenient and that has a group of core people that build something that allows others to scale, that allows you to do things yourself. And this is essentially what we're trying to achieve. We will make the platform self-service, so we are not using this pyramid, but the ship icon in our organization. How do we do that? How do we replace Rudy? First, discovering. We can solve that easily. Everybody that creates a data product needs to register it. It says, I'm the owner, and this is what the data product does. For example, I'm making an HR chatbot, and I am the owner. This will allow people to look up my data without passing via Rudy. They can just enter, I want employee data or HR data, and my product will show up. I will be the contact so they can reach out to me so we can scale. The next step is accessing data. I'm working on my HR chatbot, and I need employee data. I look it up in the catalog, and I need to connect both data products together. How do I do that? Well, this is a system that we've also built. We fill in a form. I want data for my HR chatbot. I require an explanation, so I indicate why I need that data. The owner of that data product gets a Teams pop-up that says, there is somebody who wants to use your data for an HR chatbot. This is very different from the message saying, Jonny wants to use your data. It's a completely different level of abstraction. That person can allow or deny my request, and automatically I get access to my data. Everything is in place. So in this equation, I actually removed Rudy and made a contract between the two owners, and data was shared without him being involved. So again, self-service. And the final thing is I need to clean my data. So if I can make sure that the data is already in a sort of clean state, that would be very nice. So we will actually make sure that data products comply by some of our rules. For example, everybody needs an owner, everybody needs data tests, unit tests, data contracts, SLAs, and we can actually check that. So we've built a system called scorecards that allows you to easily identify for all the data products you have how good they score, bronze, silver, or gold. If you're gold, you have everything in place. Your code is accessible, your data product is registered, you have an owner, you have data tests, you have contracts. So we can easily see through this gamification way of working, like who is actually not in the good way and who do we need to incentivize to bring their things up to the next level. There's this project that we did for the government in Belgium, in Flanders, that allows us to build 300 of these data products, so the circles, 300 of them, and we have more than 600 users of those products. So this is actual scale that we were able to achieve. We also trained more than 30 data engineers. So in terms of level, 30 people, 600 people, this is quite nice. I'll skip that for a moment. So where do we end up? We replaced Rudy with self-service. No more Rudys, so we can actually scale. So what did we actually do here? I started the whole explanation between central and decentral. You don't have to choose between central and decentral because you will have spaghetti on the one hand or a bottleneck on the other hand. And the solution is somewhere in the middle. You actually need to make sure you enable other people to do things more efficiently. How do you do that? By making things self-service. So for example, data access, which used to be completely central, we made some steps so it's easier for people to do it decentral. It's not fully decentral yet, maybe. Then the discoverability. It used to be that I had to ask Rudy. It was maybe already a bit decentral, but we shifted that towards something that people can do on their own. The downside is, you see the euro sign, this costs money. If you simply decentralize or centralize, it doesn't cost you immediate money, you will pay it afterwards. But if you want to make things self-service, you need to invest in that. And there was 4 things we invested in, and the bad news is there's more than 4. There is like more than 20 data capabilities that you could have. You can have ML training, you can have easy data sharing, observability, streaming data. I can go on and explain you 1 hour for each of these balls, but you will have to make choices there. And that is actually what good organizations do to become scalable. They make the right choices. If you have one team that is doing ML model training, then it doesn't make sense to make it self-service. Keep it in one team. Do it like that. If you see it growing, 2 teams, 3 teams, then you need to identify, okay, this is the right time to make it self-service before it grows out of control. At that point, you leave room for innovation, but at the same time, you allow to adopt things in your platform. So timing is key. You need to choose when to make things self-service. We did that in the energy sector in Belgium as well. There was a platform that we built, a data platform, focused on analytics. 2024 came and they were like, okay, we need to make predictions. We need LLMs, we need predictive ML models. And some teams started using that. And at a critical point, we adopted that in the platform so everybody can now use those features and those capabilities, those data capabilities. All right, what's the takeaway of this whole story? I started the story with, we have time and quality issues, and we need to put something in between the domains and IT. What do we put in between? We have domain-owned data products. We push ownership to the top. We now know the underside has data capabilities that are self-service, but you have to see which to make self-service. And in all that process, you saw some custom components. We made sure to keep in mind the process that the organization needs. You need to keep in mind your roles, your skills, your processes of your organization and tie that into the rest of it. So what is the main message? If you want to move from that pyramid with lack of ownership to the right side with a functioning data organization, you need to decentralize your ownership and execution and centralize your principles, your rules, and your tools. All right, to close off, if you want to remember, we have these cards for you with the images. So for those of you who took pictures, please get a card as well. And with that, I'd like to wrap up, and thanks for your attention.